Everybody, it's Friday. I'm still in Estonia. This is still CoinMetro, and this is our usual Ask Me Anything. So it's a special Friday for sure. CoinMetro bond going live today at some point. Working on a few kinks here and there, but we're getting it done. So doesn't mean all questions are going to flow in about the bond, but feel free to ask about the bond. Obviously, that's what's going to be on a lot of people's minds today. So I'm sure we're going to get some questions about it. Feel free to ask them, but feel free to ask questions about anything you feel like, to be fair. A few minutes late in getting started today. Yeah, thanks, Jeff Fuel. Not a graphic designer by trade. Appreciate the congratulations on the bond, but yeah, not a graphic designer. I actually threw this little XCM logo up in the corner. Just was messing around before I went live. Obviously, XCM tokens behind me. But yeah, you're right. We do need to update our graphics. We will. Bond's a bit more important, so we got that rolling. But thanks for the congratulations. Appreciate it. It's been quite the long journey to get this thing going. And there's already been a few people that have been able to skirt through the system, even though we haven't officially launched it yet, to the whitelisted investors as well as the ICO subscribers. But glad to see people are heavy on the F5, basically trying to get in as fast as they can. So yeah, guys, it's a day. I think that I would expect. We've been here. I think I've had a few nights or a few days where I came in the office at 7 a.m. and left at 3. So yeah, this might be one of those days, to be fair. But it is Friday, so we do what we usually do now. So yeah, come in, ask some questions, and I'll get them answered. And in the meantime, I don't know, maybe I can just sit here and continue working if that's okay with everybody else. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to think. We do have some. We did miss the news this week as well. We missed the news simply because, well, thank you, Don. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm glad you were able to sneak through, so congrats on that as well. I do think we're going to be making the announcement to everyone else on the whitelist plus ICO contributors plus our shareholders very shortly. But yeah, some people were able to sneak their way in. What am I working on? Oh, what am I working on? I got all kinds of things on my table, Donna. There's always a lot of things to be worked on. To be fair, most of what I'm involved in obviously is from management angles. So whether that be dealing with new biz dev, a lot of biz dev things. We have a couple biz dev things actually that we're working on. Whether it be working on internally just to make sure that there's things processing right now for the bond for sure. And then also moving forward with the bonds to build out additional documentation so that we can get that out to larger investors that are also interested. So yeah, a lot of it's right around the bond. Today's bond day, basically at CoinMetro. So. What was the big div announcement you mentioned last week? Paxful. So we've been in talks back and forth with Paxful, with Arthur and Ray and the other guys at Paxful. Arthur was on one of our live video casts. The first one actually we did on Tuesday this week. But the Paxful announcement, we didn't make an official announcement. We did mention in that video that we're working on something together. Basically, it's CoinMetro providing fiat on and off ramps for sellers on Paxful. Paxful has a seller's dashboard, roughly 12,000 sellers doing about 300 million a month in business, and they need quick on ramps for fiat. So we have quick on ramps for fiat with USD, Euro, and now pounds. Well, actually, it should say and now USD because pounds have been around for a while. So we should be able to pick up a majority of those sellers. That means they're coming to us to buy Bitcoin, and then they go and sell it on Paxful, come back with the cash, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's one that we're working on that right now. I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to probably come to terms on how exactly it's going to work. And then probably Q1 next year is when the target will be to get that launched. We might even launch it. We could possibly launch it in Q4. But it really depends on both parties. So it's not just about when we want to launch it, it's about when they can launch it as well. It's going to be relatively simplistic for the end user, so it should be pretty cool. The other biz dev is another company, can't mention the name yet, but they're a debit card company that's moving into Europe, and they also need fiat on and off ramps, quick fiat on and off ramps. And well, there's not many options in Europe, to be fair, to be honest, globally, for quick fiat on and off ramps. So we're starting to move down. I always said that we're a retail front-facing entity, but that didn't mean we weren't going to onboard institutions, except the institutional onboarding was going to be specifically for different types of customized products, like fiat on and off ramps, for example. So, any insight into CRED and Uphold abrupt dismantlement of their partnership? So I'm familiar with Uphold. Actually worked with them on when I had the FX broker. When I was active at the FX broker for years. Don't know much about CRED, to be fair. So let me Google is your friend. Let me see. Okay, so rewards for paying credit card bills. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything really about this, to be fair. So you repay you basically buy something with a credit card, which you're supposed to repay anyway, and then you repay it, and they reward you for repaying it. That's like rewarding someone for doing their job. Yeah, I mean, if you do it really well, I mean, I don't know. If you pay before you're supposed to pay, I guess maybe the credit card company would be happy, but you're supposed to pay anyway. That's the obligation. So yeah, I don't know. I hadn't heard about that one. Like I said, I do know Uphold, but haven't really used it. To be honest, I've never really been a customer of Uphold, except on the institutional side. I don't really know what the user experience looks like there for individuals, nor what people really use it for. In the beginning, Uphold sounded really cool, man. It was like basically even before crypto became so much of a payment option, it was like, get banked, get all these different currencies, be able to move them for almost free. But in the user experience, as far as I could tell, wasn't all that great. So yeah, I don't know. I was on the ICO and I've been here for a while. You replied to me on the Telegram earlier. Thanks for the explanation on licensing. You're welcome, Don. Any questions you have? Literally any questions. Doesn't necessarily need to be about the bond, or, by the way, it's launching today. I'm just going to keep saying that throughout the show. Or even CoinMetro, to be fair. Anything you have, finance related, regulatory related. I don't know. You want to ask me how I keep such a well-groomed head of hair? Whatever you got, throw it out, and I'll answer it. Hey, Kev, just regarding the bond, can you reserve an amount, i.e. finalize payment at a later stage? Well, that actually is already built into the process. So, for instance, people that are coming and buying bonds with Bitcoin or other crypto or fiat that's not yet on the platform, it becomes reserved. You can actually see it right on the bond page where it shows amount invested, then shows a reserved amount. That reserved amount are people that have committed to sending funds but have not yet sent funds. There is a time limit in order to get those funds, in. It's not an unlimited time period, but there's already a way to do that. Just depends really on what kind of time we're talking about here. By the way, guys, again, we have the fake CoinMetro posting into this as I'm here live on the AMA with their nonsense. Again, guys, use common sense. No one will give you free money for giving them some of your money for a little bit of time and sending it back. That just doesn't happen ever. And we don't post shit like that. Unfortunately, Facebook does not care. They do not care. I guess, yeah, they just don't care. I don't even have a good excuse as to why they don't care. The point is, they literally do not care at all. So, which one to invest, CoinMetro bond or XCM? You could only pick one. So you're asking me a hypothetical. I have to pick one. For me, if I had to pick one, considering the current climate, and I don't mean necessarily CoinMetro climate, I just mean climate in general. If I had extra cash to park somewhere, to be honest, even this hypothetical, even picking one, because it depends on my situation. So I'll give you two scenarios for this hypothetical situation on my side. Let's say that I had a lot of money that I had in other lower risk investments, but that they weren't performing well, or I thought that maybe because of the US election, because of the COVID crisis, because of the economic effect that we maybe haven't seen globally yet because of inflated stock markets, et cetera, that I thought that some of my low risk, maybe treasuries, things like this, were going to take a hit, then the bond would be where I would go immediately. I would throw some of that capital into that bond, sit back, get the interest, and then, yeah, be able to monitor progress of the company. And if at the end of the 2 years I thought the company did really well, I'd probably get into that growth token. If around those 2 years I felt like it wasn't, I'd sell my bonds. And if I got to the end of the 2 year and I was happy with the interest, but at that point equity just didn't make any sense to me, then I'd cash out into XCM. And to be fair, on either side of that equation, I think you would have to assume if the company does well, XCM is going to be valued at more than 20 cents. I think that's an assumption you kind of have to make. On the other hand, if I had some money that I was simply just placing around crypto, so more high risk investments, and I was looking just for the fastest short term return, then I may be looking at XCM. So even in a hypothetical where you have to pick just one, you still need a hypothetical on the other side about what your situation looks like. Hey Brian, thanks for showing up. I really appreciate for the invest. Sorry, sorry, this is another one of these. Well, I'm just gonna throw it up here again. So just look at this, guys. Look, I'm telling you, common sense. Let's analyze this stupid bullshit scam post. You ready? Let's analyze this. Look at the picture. Look at the picture. This looks like a woman to me. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm blind. My eyes are 40-something years old. I don't know. Plus, I got this weird thing on one of them. I don't know. But look at this. This looks like a woman. Look at the name, Clark Love. Now, I Love Clark could be a woman, right? Clark Love sounds like a really bad name in some really broke soap opera from Venezuela, from a guy that doesn't even speak English, but is supposed to be like an American tourist, falling in love with a Venezuelan lady that cleans houses, literally. So right there and then, that should tell you that this is absolutely ridiculous. Aside from the fact that somebody gave her 3x on her Bitcoin deposit, Jesus Christ. I mean, I gotta say, man, like, I don't know. I'm not even gonna say it. These things just boggle my mind. I don't know what to say. Okay, no Halloween outfit. No, not today. I was actually gonna put on my Halloween outfit from last year. I didn't have any time to go buy one this year. But I thought being a Ghostbuster 2 years in a row was just not authentic. Plus, it's not Halloween, man. That's tomorrow. Yeah. So anyway, congrats to CoinMetro team on launch of the CoinMetro bond. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Our ICO holders are the first to avail on the bonds. Yes, that's right. ICO contributors as well as shareholders, current shareholders, as well as anyone who whitelisted themselves on our whitelisting page over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. All those individuals have access to the bond all the way up until the public launch on the 3rd. Of course, they have access afterward as well, but they get first dibs, first access, just so that they can ensure that they get in. Basically, that's the idea. All right, another ridiculous post there. How many people are working for CoinMetro now? 24, 25. Inside the offices here, I think we have 12. I think. Hard to count right now because it's still kind of COVID-y. So people do work from home. Yeah, and some people are working from other locations. Actually, we have people that are usually in this office currently in Mexico. So it's kind of hard to keep track, but I think we have 12. But globally, yeah, 24 or 25 currently. For the two BizDev announcements, how would it mean for CM? What would it mean for CM? And how nice, and how, Jesus, what am I don't know if it's me. It's like, this thing seems like it's changing in front of my face. I just can't read today. What would it mean for CoinMetro and how would it tie into the tokenomics of XCM? Okay, tokenomics of XCM is an easy one. The more volume we do, the more business we generate, the more fees we generate, the more XCM is needed, the more people, and the more volumes we have, the more people see those volumes of things like core market cap, the more traders come in to trade with us, the more traders we have, the more volume, et cetera. So that all ties together, and that's an easy one. So from CoinMetro in general, it could easily mean a 10x of our current volumes, to be fair. Between those two partnerships alone. That doesn't mean that happens overnight. And with partnerships, you never know. Sometimes you get one, so maybe we'll get two. Maybe we won't get either of these two, but two more will come along next week, and we're going to land those. So in that terms, the important point is that we're starting to look for these type of opportunities. And once we do start the process, it will be known that we're providing the service, and thus other players in the industry will come and look for that service. So I think that's the most important part. But I do think out of these two, we're at least going to land one. And to be honest, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't land both of them. And yeah, a very easy 10x of volume in a very short amount of time. So you can kind of extrapolate that over what it could mean for XCM. But as I said, more volume, more demand, more volume means more eyes on the exchange, means more volume. That additional volume means more fees are being charged. More fees being charged means there's more XCM being bought by us alone, by market orders into the exchange. The movement of price on XCM attracts more eyes from outside of CoinMetro to buy XCM. It's basically once you kick the domino over, as long as there's nothing in the middle of those dominoes. There's no significant road, speed bumps between those dominoes as they fall. It's a domino effect. So speed bumps can always happen. Sometimes you got to kick that domino back down again. But yeah, it's once one thing happens, you kick off a chain reaction. Hi, congrats on the CoinMetro bond launch. Shame I cannot participate since I got hacked the other day. Well, that sucks. That aside, we talked about it the other day. Is it possible to disable BTC withdrawals altogether? Hey, yeah, we did talk about this. To be fair, I guess you're asking if, I guess, individually in your account, you'd be able to disable a certain, and I don't see why that wouldn't be possible. My question would be if someone gains access to your account, meaning they're in your account already, they can just enable it again. So I'm not sure what that really does to diminish the same type of hack that happened, let's say in your case, because in your case, they had your 2FA access. I mean, they had email, or maybe not 2FA, but they had other access points, and they were able to gain access to your account, meaning they could change anything in the account. So if it was changed in settings on your side, then essentially they could just change it back. I think it's really just about when there's only so much we can do in those cases. In your particular type of case, I think what the best case scenario that can happen is that you find out what's happening sooner, and then we can disable on our side the account. And we can do that relatively easily. But if we automate that, I'm not sure how you would actually trigger the automation, unless it's from maybe some other external email address, for example. But then what happens if that external email address, somebody gets access to that as well, and then can just re-enable or disable just to make your day more difficult? So yeah, I'm not sure. We'd have to talk about it. You'd have to think about exactly how you think it would mitigate this exact type of attack in the future, and we can see if it's something that we're able to do. But we're willing. Look, we want to protect our clients' funds, whether it's us protecting, let's say, CoinMetro's accounts to make sure that client funds that are held there are safe, or whether it's protecting our end clients by adding in additional security features. 100% willing to do it all the time. But just need to make sure that security feature actually will be a security feature and not just a bell or a whistle that really at the end of the day doesn't really do anything. Thanks for making my day a great one. And so, Jesus, another one of these guys. I really should read these before I post. Can we expect some press releases regarding CM Bond? Yes, you can. Actually, I did an interview a while ago and just had a recap with, and I can't say the publication, but yeah, anyway, the point is yes, you should. Again, it doesn't go officially publicly live until Tuesday. So right now it's live for you guys, most of you guys, because you're either whitelisted, you're ICO contributors, etc. But it's not live for everyone else. So yes, but you'll start to see those next week. How are the merch sales going? Actually, because we don't really have it integrated to anywhere, and that's kind of by design, not by design, but we haven't done that simply because it's not a high priority. So yeah, actually, every time we talk about it, there's a few sales that happen. But when we don't talk about it, we don't see any sales. I think literally the entirety of the last 30 days, I don't think there's been any sales on the merchandise store, but that's simply because it's not mentioned anywhere. I mean, why would anybody know it's there? And again, that'll change. I think over time we will integrate, like I said, I want to be able to have almost like an automated kind of prizes. You reach your 10th trade on CoinMetro, you've done X amount of volume, you've referred X amount of friends, whatever. And then automatically you just get to pick a product and send it out. And if you want to buy, you can use XCM, you can use crypto. All that stuff we want to do in the future. Obviously, it's not the most high priority task at CoinMetro, and we don't have a dev we can just throw on merchandise store stuff yet. But when we do, it is something that we're looking to do. I'm talking about disabling BTC withdrawals, only enabling. One of the support agents said it was not possible. Again, I'd have to ask the same question here. I'm sure you posted this before I gave my explanation. But I have to, you mean disabling only on your account, like forever? Is that what you mean? So your specific account can never withdraw BTC? That's possible. It's not something we can just button click on our side. It's possible, but then it takes a bit of work. And then that means that if you ever wanted to re-enable it, it would also take some work. So, and it's just for one specific client. In order to make that possible for any client, where we can, one client disable one specific withdrawal type, also possible, but would require work. So yeah, anyway, just really want to understand, because it wouldn't be anything you could manually turn on and off. And devil's advocate, if someone gains access to your email, they gain access to your phone, and they gain access to your CoinMetro account, for the most part, we're going to receive an email from them, or they're going to jump on live chat and say, hey, this is me. Remember I said to disable Bitcoin withdrawals? Can you just light that up again for me? I appreciate it. And then they just withdraw. So again, let's make sure that the steps actually reduce this very specific type of incident that you had, or else let's think of other ways that may actually reduce. This time it was, someone, whatever, converting your, I think, PRQ into Bitcoin, that were throwing Bitcoin. What if they just convert it into ETH and withdraw ETH? What would this do? Well, nothing, right? Will there be MM for PRQ boost pair? How will CM handle this situation? Will I be able to sell PRQ boost as soon as it will be airdrop? Well, they're supposed to airdrop it today. Actually, the Parsec guys are coming by in 30 minutes. So I'm probably after the AMA. So I'll probably have some information after that, and I'll jump into Telegram and let you guys know. As far as market makers, I've asked them about that. I don't have an answer. How will we handle it? Well, look, to be fair, it's supposed to be paid to liquidity providers. So in all reality, the market making might not be the biggest issue initially. I don't know, people maybe be day trading a reward, this type of reward token, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, these are questions that I've asked the PRQ with the Parsec, and the boys will be in the office in about 31 minutes. So I'll let you know once I know. Another moron. Okay, so I don't want to, just so everybody knows, it's just we have all these guys posting nonsense about send me a Bitcoin, I'll send you 3. So sorry, Michael coming up here. So Michael asking how the response to the bond. The bond's not even officially, it's not officially live yet, even for whitelisted contributors and ICO or whitelisted individuals and ICO contributors. So in that respect, it's not, there's no metrics yet because yeah, it's not yet live. But there have been about 5,000 euros or something that have sneaked in somehow. But it's not, we haven't even made the announcement yet. So for not making the announcement yet, I would say it's doing pretty good. Hi, Kevin. Our CM tangible bond issued through Montenegro sandboxing. What does mean you can operate 2 years under provisional license and while you're getting a real one? Sure. So CM and tangible bond are issued by their issuers. That's Tangible and CoinMetro. But the Montenegro sandbox entities, which are Ignium and CoinMetro in Montenegro, CoinMetro provides the digital securities marketplace, a place where you can actually buy those securities, and it provides the secondary market, which will be released in the coming months, more than likely once the CoinMetro bond is actually a subscription period ends. And that's what CoinMetro Montenegro operates. Ignium Montenegro operates the settlement, the custody, and the creation of the asset on the Ignium side. But the issuers themselves are issued from Japan and from Europe, because the issuers are the ones who actually issue the token. That would be the ones that are selling it. And it means that the sandbox license isn't forever. You're given a specific amount of time you can operate within a sandbox. It's supposed to be a test. Tests don't last forever, well, hopefully. So the sandbox test is 2 years. That means within those 2 years, yes, we are looking to acquire licensing so that we can continue to operate and continue to give the same services, which is that front-end primary platform, the digital securities marketplace, as well as the secondary market trading. And that more than likely will be an MTF license, multilateral trading facility license in Europe, probably from Estonia. If not Estonia, potentially Lithuania. If not Lithuania, potentially it could even be the UK, depending on what passporting looks like going into Q1 of next year. So that's one reason for the bond raise. So to require that license, we need about half of what we're looking to raise in the bond just to have as minimum capital in order to be able to make the application. And the bond isn't the only way that we're raising money. We also have some feelers out for straight to equity as well. The difference is that obviously straight to equity isn't going to make interest over the next 2 years. And to be fair, CoinMetro probably won't pay a substantial amount of dividends over the next 2 years, no matter how much profit we make, simply because for the first couple of years, we're going to be reinvesting that money in the company to grow at an exponential rate. So the bond is by far a better option for most investors because they get cash flow over those 2 years. Could you give us your scary Halloween thoughts on Tether? Oh, tether, yeah. So look, right now, I can give you scary Halloween thoughts about a lot of things, to be fair. Tether's one of them. Lots of rumors floating around Tether. Tether's obviously intermingled in this investigation that's currently going on by the New York State Attorney General. Inquiry, let's call it. I don't think any official charges have been made yet, but Tether has been trying to kick the can down the road for quite some time. Not responding to judges' requests for documentation, delaying and trying to delay documentation. Documentation that, to be honest, if they were run in any legitimate manner, they'd be able to provide almost immediately. And that's pretty clear to the judge. So I do expect at some point here in the near future, they will be hit with charges. And whether that starts off as a civil case or it goes right to like DOJ. So whether it's whether it's like somebody like the SEC or perhaps the OCC or someone that levies some type of civil charges against them initially, or potentially the DOJ with criminal charges, I do think that's imminent. When it actually happens, well, anybody can be the judge on that one. But the thing is that you're not talking about a centralized asset, right? You're talking about a decentralized asset, which means that even when, or if, depending on what you believe, charges come to light and they are found guilty, even charges come to light, normally in a normal market, an asset, let's say a stock, a share, whatever, a bond, something issued by some company, and that company comes under indictment, the share price, the stock price, the bond basically price the bond, in case of the bond price would shoot high because and it would make the interest basically almost go to zero. In terms of shares and things like that, the price would tank just on the allegation. If they were found criminally liable, then the asset would be pulled from the exchange and basically would be worthless. In this case, there's no way to just stop the asset. Tether is decentralized, so it will exist, whether the government wants it to exist or not. The question is how much people would still use it. Would it maintain its one-to-one value? Probably when let's say they are found guilty and it's found that they only have 34 cents in a reserve somewhere, and billions printed, would people still use it? If they retain their faith in the underlying asset, it could stay at one-to-one. I doubt that would happen. I do think you would see very quick volatile swings. That doesn't mean it would go to zero, because it would still hold some value in some people's eyes. And as it fell, people would lots of people kind of like not savvy, but we should say like quick to act investors might try to buy it at 80, 70, 60, 50 cents to be able to try to quickly resell it in other markets for potentially a higher value where people still have the faith in the underlying value. So yeah, the scary thought is simply that when these things were created, the creators of these things and as they've been operated, somehow thought they were never going to get touched by government or regulators, or didn't care. And now they're getting touched. We've seen BitMEX, actually Tether and Bitfinex have been kind of touched already, but there's been no official charges filed yet. BitMEX has charges that have been filed. On top of that, you have with this little rumor about Binance and Forbes. CZ came out to say they misinterpreted bullshit. They didn't misinterpret anything. It's literally a schematic for how they evade regulation, evade tax, and funnel clients still into Binance that are U.S. residents, but have a front so that the U.S. thinks they're remaining compliant. It's absolutely obvious from that document. Nobody reading that document that's ever seen a similar document or ever been involved in company structure would think otherwise. It's absolute evasion, and it is illegal. And them knowingly doing it makes it a crime. So not just in the U.S. to be fair. So as all these things start to come to light, you have Binance closing the Jersey office. You have Binance UK director resigning. You have Binance leak now. Doesn't mean it came from the guy who resigned. Could be. But you're starting to get a lot of things coming to light. And I would say that crypto's in for a bit of a baseball bat to the forehead. To be honest, I think price has probably matured to a point where the market itself is not going to be affected as it would have been a year ago if this happened, or 2 years ago. Look at what happened. OKX. I don't know how much money is locked in OKX, but it's a lot. Almost no effect on the underlying market. Binance is bigger than OKX, but even something happening at Binance. Tether's a bit of a different story. I think the guys at Tether know what's going to happen, and that's why we've seen a lot of these pumps in coins, even Bitcoin, because people are getting out of Tether and throwing it anywhere they can, and then pulling profits out of other assets. But that also means that someone's still holding that Tether, right? It's going from one smart guy to one guy that's not so smart. But Tether could actually have a bigger effect. But I don't think either would be long term. Don C, any tips for new traders? Wow, I used to teach trading. I've taught lots of people different techniques about trading. The biggest thing you can teach any trader is if you let your emotions into trading, you will fail. 100%. You will fail. You will lose your money. You will continue to lose your money. You will not be able to figure out why you're losing your money. You'll start to blame stop hunting and the broker can see my trades. Oh, it's a liquidity issue. Oh, it's because of this slippage. Oh, if I could just get a better order execution. But no, it's because you're emotional and you will lose. Simple as that. So the best thing you can do as a trader is to teach yourself to not act like a human being. And that's basically, so this is why the best traders in the world would be considered, as far as, let's say, mental health is concerned, as psychopaths. The definition of a psychopath. You can take out your emotion out of a situation. No emotion whatsoever. You make your decision based on a plan. You set the plan, you follow the plan. If it goes up, if it goes down, it's meaningless to you because you have a plan. When you can do that, you will be a successful trader. I can give you a strategy right now that I could use that works, and you could still fail. I can give you a strategy that someone else fails at, and you can make a ton of money with it. Again, it's all about setting a plan, following it, strict money management, making sure you're not risking, you're not going all in on 100x with all your capital on every trade. Because guess what? The best traders in the world lose quite frequently. They lose a lot of trades, but they still come out ahead because they have better money management than you do. It's not because they're better, not necessarily because they can read a chart better. It's not necessarily because, they're awesome traders. Sorry, just gonna grab this, guys. You're gonna get a shot of the ball head here. It's just simply because they know how to manage their money. They know how to manage risk better. So yeah, take the emotion out. That's my first tip. Don't clutter your chart. Don't clutter your chart with indicators. If you need 745 indicators on your chart to make a trade, you are not a trader. Simple as that. Especially in crypto, to be fair, because what happens in crypto is it's mostly retail driven. When a market is retail driven, it tends to move, shake, and react at very similar price points all the time. Why? Because retail traders follow other retail traders. They look at things like Fibonacci. They're taught initially about support and resistance. They look at things like Fibonacci retracements, and they look at things like, then some guys get into Elliott wave and game theory and all this nonsense. In reality, though, they start to look at they all look at the same things. The 200 daily moving average, which, by the way, guys, is a big crock of horse shit, because all you're looking at is the average candle price, closing price over the last 200 days. It's the same data you're getting by looking at 200 candles, by the way, on the screen. The only difference is it's smooth. It's supposed to be easier to look at. Obviously, price is going to touch it because over time it's oscillating and the average is changing. Anyway, point being is that to become a good trader, learn what price is, learn how price reacts, look at support and resistance, maybe check volumes. To be honest, in crypto, it's not really the best thing to do because you're probably looking at segmented volume anyway. You're not looking at the entire market volume, and some of that volume is probably fake. But the good thing is you're trading against all retail guys. If you can spot support and resistance and you can manage your money and manage your risk, you'll beat them all. Jesus, where'd I go? Okay. Whoops. Will the real license be obtained in Montenegro, Estonia, or EU? What happens if you don't get the real license? Are those 2-year counting for each new digital asset issuance? So we more than likely wouldn't obtain the license in Montenegro, but if we didn't have another option leading up in the next 18 months or so, we may. It would probably be Estonia or somewhere else in the EU. If we don't get the real license, what would happen is that we would no longer be able to provide secondary market on those issuances. Primary, we would probably still be able to do. It's usually not regulated. Are those 2 years counting for each asset? No. Those 2 years are in our entirety. So as we move forward, issuances, until we have clarity, are going to potentially be less time, 6-month issuances, 1-year issuances, etc. We have a bit of a leeway, and to be honest, we can always talk to the regulator and say, look, we have these 10 issues, these issuances, the last one of the 10 came in March of 2021. We would like to extend the 2 years for them, and I'm pretty sure we could have an open dialogue and get that done. But it is based on our sandbox license, not based on each issuance. How long will CM bond sale take? Roughly 90 days, Brian, 90 days. Well, it may take less, but that's the subscription period. Thank you, Bjorn, appreciate that. Has the marketing around USD launch kicked off? And when will first pairs? We have started to do a bit of marketing around USD, actually went live the day that we announced USD was live. And first pairs are scheduled to go live this weekend. I'm not being, I meant not being able to disable the BTC withdrawals without another KYC account recovery process. I meant not being able to disable the BTC withdrawals without another. So are you saying you want the ability to disable BTC withdrawals without another KYC process, or you want to be able to do it without that process? I'm a little confused. I think we should take this into DM. I think you should DM me again on Telegram, send me a message, verbal if possible, in voice, and then we can go over this. Yep, I get it. I think there's probably a better way to protect in these particular instances, but to be fair, there's also much better ways to protect yourself to make sure that people don't gain access to your devices. So that's probably where you should focus first, to be fair. Because on our side, no matter what we do, if someone gains access to everything you own, all the devices, all your accounts, no matter what we do on our side, it's going to be pretty difficult for us to make sure that it's not someone else giving us instructions. How much of a threat do you think is Tether to the crypto markets? I think a year ago, it was a bigger threat than it is now. I think the market has matured to a certain extent. If you notice, when you see good news come out or bad news, you don't see the same effect as you used to see. It's still a hype-driven market, but it's less of a hype-driven market. It's less of a FUD-driven market. So I think Tether is a threat simply because it's one of the biggest assets in crypto, and it's probably run in not the way it's supposed to be run. And that's going to give a key to, look, BitMEX, one of the biggest projects or one of the biggest businesses in crypto, one of the biggest properties in crypto, definitely not run how it should be run. Binance, same thing. OKX, same thing. Tether, same thing. Huobi, probably the same thing. So, that hurts the industry in the fact that the regulators, the legislators, and just people look at that and go, man, really? Like, these are the leaders? It's these guys? And to be honest, to be fair, that happens in a lot of things in life. I mean, look at government. I'm pretty sure you can look at a lot of people that are in government and go, really? It's these people that are running the countries and the cities, really? So it's not just crypto, but that's a problem for the industry. It's a problem because the quicker that changes, the better, the more adoption we're going to see, from bigger players in the market, and that's going to lead to more adoption from smaller players. Because look, PayPal has a bigger reach than almost any property in crypto. So them coming on board because they saw that things had matured a bit, because they had some regulatory clarity because of the OCC in the US, that's all a great thing. I don't care that you can't withdraw your Bitcoin, I don't care about any of that stuff. It's a great thing to bring on new eyes, and we need to continue to do that. But the more and more that the top-heavy companies in crypto are fraudulent, scammy, shitty, non-regulated, is not a good thing. So the quicker those things are rectified, the better. For individual account anti-hack measures, do you have IP region checks? If you see IP from a different country, do you require some additional measure? You can activate that on your account for sure. But in this particular case, you have to know this particular case. I believe the hacker had access to the client's email, also to and maybe even some devices as well. I think his laptop. So even if there was IP checks, he could just get the IP check from the email. Parsec is coming to CoinMetro offices. Yep, they'll be here 12 minutes, basically. ICO is live for me. Not an ICO, but okay. I mean, well, I guess it is an initial coin offering, but this coin happens to be a bond. Let's call it a primary issuance. Sounds like we're wearing our big boy pants when we say that. Are bondholders first in line to be paid back in case of insolvency? No. No, they're not. But to be fair, I think you mean liquidation, because if we're insolvent, like we have no money, then where's the money coming from? But in liquidation, no, legally speaking, they wouldn't be first in line. But to be fair, there's no one else in line. So CoinMetro doesn't owe money anywhere. We don't have debt. So they may not be first in line, but there's no one else in front of them. What will start the snowball effect to bring more customers attraction? More marketing. More marketing, more word of mouth, more customers. Marketing has been on a low level, meaning we haven't spent a lot of money on it. We've been testing for the most part. We've been finding channels and funnels that work. We've been adjusting those channels and funnels. And we found some that have, 7x the amount of clients we have, 5x our revenue, et cetera. Yep, we went from a small amount to a 5x of that small amount. But that still means that we 5x the revenue, which means we found something that had the ability to 5x our revenue on a proportional budget. So we had 5,000 in revenue one month. Next month we had 25,000. We didn't spend 150 or 200,000 on marketing to do that. We spent a proportional amount, which means if you take those and you apply a proportional amount to a larger budget, there goes the snowball. Won't Tether just pay the charge out of their dirty fake dollar reserve and pay the bill and they're clean? No, because if they are charged and there's some, first of all, if they're charged and they lose, it's not like, okay, you lost the case, it's a civil case, you owe us, disgorgement of $1 billion, but you can keep on operating your shady business that we indicted you for in the first place. Well, no. They would shut down Tether and they would make Tether pay them fee, and they wouldn't be able to pull that money out of their reserve that's supposed to be their clients' funds. The one thing actually that brings to my mind now, one thing that could happen that is very likely to happen is that the reserve itself, if there is one, would be frozen and it would go into auditing and then liquidation. And that could take years for whoever's supposed to own that money to actually get it. And that potentially could cause the value of Tether initially to drop very hard. But as people were getting closer to when the actual liquidation was going to happen, when people were actually going to get their money, it might actually make the value of Tether rise. Think about that one. The issue with, because what happens usually in the normal world is a company will get indicted, that whatever happens, they lose the case, they get indicted, they go to jail, they don't go to jail, they have to pay all this money. Their company's shut down. Those assets are frozen. In this case, the reserve assets would be frozen, but the actual token that represents the reserve assets, they can't freeze it. So what do? It's always going to be in circulation, which means today might be held by this guy, and this girl may have it tomorrow, and this dude may have it the next day. That's a very unique situation for a liquidation that I don't even know how that's never happened in the traditional world. So that's going to be an interesting one if it happens. According to the CoinMetro roadmap in November, you will be able to onboard institutional clients and new partners. Can you say something more about that? Well, yeah, we're actually putting institutional client or account opening online. So instead of having it be a manual process, it'll be something that can be filled out online, just like you can with your individual accounts. And I mentioned 2 partners already that I didn't mention one by name, which is Paxful. I mentioned another one not by name, which is a debit card issuer that's moving into Europe. And there are others that we're in talks with. But yes, the main thing about November is that the process will be much easier. Paxful seems shady. B2B Bitcoin trading gives me a shady back alley feeling. And one of the 2 assets is Tether. How do you fit into CM's 100% regulatory compliance? Well, here's the deal. So Paxful in the beginning, I would say yes, they were flagged on every major chain analysis, elliptic, all these as high risk. Paxful, however, has started to institute KYC, especially on their seller side. And the seller is really the only money that actually flows through Paxful. So the buyer is actually paying the seller directly, right? So the sellers are the ones that are actually moving Bitcoin into Paxful system to sell the Bitcoin. The cash then comes to them via some other means. They're then taking that cash and acquiring more Bitcoin and then depositing that on Paxful. So from a regulatory standpoint, they really need to focus on the sellers, and they have. They have a seller's dashboard. These sellers are KYC'd. They do similar checks that we do at CoinMetro on their sellers. Not identical, but similar. So in that light, and they do offer they do offer tether. That's recent. We would not be on the tether side. We would be on the Bitcoin side only. And to be fair, lots of regulated parties, especially in the US, offer tether. For us, it's part regulation and it's part simply that we don't want to be caught in a potential tether issue when and if those charges come to light. Look, if charges don't come to light or they do come to light and tether beats them, I'll have no problem listing tether if people want it. But for now, personally, as a CEO, I don't want to list it. Now, if I listed it, we might be doing a lot more business. And that's something that, that we need to, that's always something you weigh in business. Doing what you feel is right versus making money. In this particular instance, I do what I think is right. So taxes have to be paid on every trade, correct? If yes, do you guys have planned to include an easy automatic tax calculator that is being displayed on the dashboard? The problem with that is every jurisdiction is different. So I think, Lynx, you're sitting in Germany, if I remember. Germany's going to be different than every other country in Europe, and every other country is going to be different than Germany in some way, shape, or form. US is going to be different. Every other country outside of the European Union is going to be different. That means that we need to be able to create and then monitor tax law in every single jurisdiction of the world, and then incorporate that into a calculator and keep it updated. That sounds almost impossible to me, and probably a task we would fail at. Most companies, to be honest, would fail at. And we can generalize it, but if we generalize it, then you might not be getting correct information, and then you may file your taxes incorrectly because of the information we gave you. Also something I wouldn't want to do. I think the best thing we can do, most taxes are going to come down to two things, either gains, capital gains, or income. And that either happens when you sell into a fiat, like you have Bitcoin, you sell it into fiat, and then that could be just that whatever money you get, they consider to be a gain, or it could be the difference between when you bought the Bitcoin and when you sell it. Comprehensive statement that can be downloaded so you can easily see your capital gains and your income over a specific time period, and then based on wherever you're sat as far as your jurisdiction, you'll be able to file those taxes. If we can find some type of third party that can provide via API the data on crypto tax, and I think there are some companies looking to do that, then potentially we could build it into the widget. When will US citizens that are not US residents have USD deposits enabled? Well, everyone, it's not just by US citizens, everyone will have USD deposit. Everyone that's a client or can be a client will have USD by SWIFT. As far as the time frame on that, I have to go back to the provider to make sure that there's no specific, you need to run, US only for 30 days, 60 days, 5 days, 10 days. Remember, during the testing process, we were told it was a 10-day testing process right around the 7th day. We didn't know before that. So I have to clarify that, and then we can set a plan. I think we'll get it done before the end of the year. It may be way before that, actually. But I think the end of the year is pretty clear cut. How do I sell shares in CoinMetro in future? Enough buyer. Let's say I want to sell my future CM bond and I convert it to shares. Okay, so let me break this one down. So you buy the bond, you're converting into the growth token, which is equity-like, not shares, but equity-like. It's an equity-like token. There will be a secondary market. Now, can I predict exactly how liquid that secondary market will be? No, I can't. But you have to imagine, and I would assume that as CoinMetro grows, the more we grow, the more money we make, the more price volatility, especially the upside that's seen in those growth tokens, the more people are going to come on to buy them, the more people will be enticed to sell them, the more trading that will happen, the more liquidity you will get. If you look at even XCM's book, compare it to XCM's book, not the most liquid thing in the world right now, but compare it to a year ago. Compare the buy side to a year ago till now. It's highly more liquid than it used to be. And that's a direct result of more clients in the company. So more clients, more liquidity. If we do well, there should be more clients. If we don't do well, there would be less clients, less liquidity. That's essentially how it works. If you look at our trajectory, maybe we haven't moved as fast as we would like. But as we get through the bond, as we get more capital in, as we're able to move faster, compare our trajectory and a multiplier. And I think it answers that question, that liquidity will come with more eyes and more clients inside the company. Are the bonds going to have fixed price on secondary market? They won't. It will be fluctuating. However, it is a bond. The interest rate is paid on the issuance price. What that basically means is if the issuance price is 10, like it is, and you're making 10% on that 10 euros, and you sell it for 5, the person that's buying it for 5 is now making 20%, which would inevitably push the price higher. If the price went too high, say to 20, the buyers are only getting 5% interest. Thus, the people buying may take a second look, and the buy price gets pushed back down. So what you would expect theoretically is that, let's say this is the 10 euro line. Let's say the top of your comment is the 10 euro line right here. This is what I would expect. That price essentially is going to go up and down, but your median price, your average price, is going to stay right around the issue price. For the growth tokens, it's a completely different assets, completely different type of asset. It's equity-like, which means I don't expect it to maintain price. I expect that as we do well, price goes higher. Just like, as we release results are good, price goes higher. You release results that aren't so good, price may go lower, et cetera, et cetera. It's more like, it should price itself more like an equity asset. At least that's the assumption. How many USD deposits after the launch? I think to be honest, the last time I checked, there was somewhere around 40 clients that have been through the process of activating the USD deposits. But to be fair, we haven't yet made a huge amount of noise. We've still been testing in many ways. So it's definitely probably more than that. I checked, I would say yesterday morning is the last time I actually checked. And it's only been a few days. Thanks for those tips. Any recommended avenues for automated trading? I know the API exists. Do you have any tips for using that? I would say that if you're not familiar with using the API, make sure that you demo first. Make sure that you demo using different, however you're going to connect to that API. Maybe you're using some type of other interface. Maybe you're going to connect to it with some type of system where you manually enter orders. Maybe you're going to connect it to some type of a black box or bot connected to another interface that actually controls that bot. But do demo first. If you don't understand it, do not use real money. That would be my first. The first thing I would tell you. Basically, secondary market volume can be as big as U.S. stock market. I love these questions. Can it be? Yes. You could say, could volume be a bajillion, gazillion, majillion, cajillion, quadrillion U.S. francs? And I could say it could be. So yes, it could be. Do I imagine our secondary market in the short term to outpace the U.S. stock market? Absolutely not. Not even close. Over time, would I expect that tokenized markets in general would outpace the U.S. stock market? Absolutely. Why? Because the U.S. stock market is U.S. companies only. It's a big economy, but that's only U.S. companies. The tokenized market are global companies. And right now, you're not going to see a Pfizer or a Boeing or some major corporation coming onto the Ignium secondary market and then putting their assets on CoinMetro for trading. But in the future, as that Ignium network grows and as CoinMetro grows, I do expect the underlying tokenized market to far outpace the current size of the U.S. equities market, because you're talking about the combination of every single tradable asset on the face of the earth. The bond market alone is massively bigger than the U.S. stock market. CoinMetro. Hey, Kevin. Sorry if I already asked. Okay. What happens if all bonds are not purchased? Well, if they're not purchased, then we have the ability, they sit in our treasury, we have the ability to reopen another bond, another subscription period if we want to. We also have the ability to put them into the secondary market. So basically put them into the book and allow people to purchase them from the book as well. CM will also help other businesses to raise bond in the future. Yep, we've already helped Tangible. CoinMetro is the next one. There are already 2 more lined up. Well, there's more than 2, but there's 2 lined up probably for the next month or 2. And there's more to come, so absolutely. Kevin, you have to get them on just to say hi. Parsec dudes. Yeah, well, let's see. Let's see if they show up. Well, they're not on time, obviously, because it's 4:02. I don't see them here. Why are they coming? Yep, it's about PRQ boost for the most part. So I think that's what we're going to be discussing. What would be the ideal election result in regards to crypto? And that's a hard one to answer because it's 100% speculative. I would say For the short term, Trump presidency, Trump re-election would probably be the best. For long term, they both suck. Biden is not good for the economy, and he will not be good for a recovery, and he absolutely will not be good for crypto. But it's only 4 years, guys, so, you know, whatever. But he has people now in the government, the OCC, for example, that are very good for crypto. So, you know, I don't think Biden really cares about, I don't think presidents in general really care about crypto, to be fair. But Democratic policies are not going to be good for alternative finance. Republican policies usually would be better. But in long term, both of those presidents probably aren't the best president you want sitting in the seat. I'd rather have a younger president that maybe understands fintech, probably not a billionaire who doesn't really care, because probably somebody who made money that wasn't part of their father's money, probably not somebody who's been a lifelong politician. So I think both of those presidential candidates, if you break it down, are absolute shit. But if I had to pick one short term for crypto, I'd pick Trump. If I had to pick one long term for crypto, I wouldn't pick either of them. If I had to actually pick one, gun to my head, who's better longer term for crypto in the next 4 years? Still Trump. Does CM have huge debt? Is there a proper balance sheet? And does cash flow and financial statements so we can track like US stock market do have? We have no debt. The bond will be our only debt for the most part. That doesn't mean we don't have debt, you know, every 30 to 60 days for invoices, you know, net 30, net 15, net 7, etc. But in real terms, we are debt. We have no debt. The bond will be the only debt that sits with CoinMetro. We do end of year financials, and yep, they can be requested and we can send them. In fact, they are being submitted today, as far as I know, for last year. And as far as, again, when you say balance sheet, not really sure what you mean specifically. If you're talking about our day-to-day accounting, like where we actually show our balance sheet, that's not something we're obliged to show. We don't show it not because we don't want to show it. Look, we're pretty transparent with our revenues. We're pretty transparent with our burn rate. Everybody knows our burn rate's about 150K. I don't know how many times you said that on the show. So we are 100% transparent. Now, as a shareholder, you can request the information in a shareholders meeting, and that can be voted on, and then it can be shared. No problem. As a growth token holder, you don't have voting rights. So you have to rely on the shareholders actually asking for that vote. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, thumbs up, guys. Thumbs up, hearts, subscribe, all that good stuff. It will help, and we will be appreciative of it. Any plans for fiat trading? In order to have FX trading, we would need an FX license. So having a fiat pair versus a stable coin is still a crypto pairing, falls under our current license. Fiat to fiat requires either a CFD, investment firm, FX, etc., or futures license, depending on the jurisdiction, which we do not yet have. So in the current plans, no fiat to fiat trading. However, in the future, now trading, we can do deliverable exchange, which means if you're on the widget on our dashboard, and you want to move from euro to USD, you can do that. If you want to move from USD to pounds, you can do that because it's deliverable. We're actually delivering the currency to you, not speculative trading. A pair, it means speculative trading. That also means we can't do it. So, when will you boost marketing? Marketing has been being boosted in small increments. Part of the reason we're raising the bond is to boost marketing. If you go public, won't the real shares influence negatively the price of the growth token? Potentially, but I don't know. If to influence them negatively, they'd have to be priced lower than the growth token, and that would be that's. I don't know if that would necessarily be the case, to be fair. But if they were priced substantially lower than the growth token, then yeah, potentially it could affect the price since they have similar rights. Are many other crypto projects doing bonds? Is CoinMetro the first platform? I haven't seen any other crypto platform doing bonds. I've seen bonds done on DLT and blockchain, but I haven't seen any crypto platforms doing bonds, to be fair. With so many competitors and huge crypto exchange firms out there, won't you think CM has started too late? How's CM going to catch up the gap? I don't. I think if you think that way when you're opening a business, you're thinking the wrong way. That would be like, there's already so many, you name the business, why should I open one? You know, Domino's Pizza already exists. Why should I open a pizza company that delivers? oh, the Marriott already exists. Why should I open a hotel? I think that's a ridiculous way of thinking, to be fair. And I don't think we've started too late. I think everybody is still early. And I think, to be fair, we probably started around the right time. Some of the big pillars will fall. When they do fall, then we can pick. The Parsec guys just showed up, so maybe we can get somebody to stick their head in. Let's see what happens. How are we going to catch up? By doing things the right way, by servicing our clients, by providing a better service, and by simply being here and doing things the right way, and being regulated, and offering products no one else is offering, and just servicing our clients the way they need to be serviced. You don't need to break the mold so much to gain market share. And yes, the CM bond is one step in the right direction, that's for sure. What happens to the XCM that CoinMetro buys from open market? What happens to the XCM? The XCM that we're buying gets vaulted. The vault right now is held for either 2 to 4 years. I forget what it is, 5 years. The only reason we're doing that is because there's still a little bit of ambiguity from a regulatory standpoint about burning assets. Thus, once that gets solved, if it's possible, then at the end of that vaulting period, we will burn them. If it isn't possible, we will just vault them again. Potentially maybe for another X amount of years, just to see if burning becomes possible. If it doesn't, we will essentially vault them into infinity. So they're no longer possible to come into the circulating supply. A few more questions, guys, then I gotta go. I got a meeting with the Parsec people here in the office. I mean that the real shares would have voting rights on top, so inherently more valuable. Yeah, inherently they could be more valuable, but at what value? If you're still getting the same dividend, if you're still getting a piece of that same possible revenue share, and if you're still getting a piece of the pie if the company sells, and the fact that still the majority, as far as majority vote, we only need really 3 people in the company to always make a majority vote. So voting rights of those, I mean, when we go public, we would get, the shareholding wouldn't be the same. But let's say you only needed 5 shareholders out of everybody, and even if there was 1,000, 10 shareholders. So voting, I don't think would hold that much value, to be honest. When we get the coupon interest payments from the bond, is this a franked return or is it taxable? Not sure what you mean by franked. Depends on your jurisdiction, but potentially, yes, it would be taxable, just like any interest. Is there really a guarantee that shares will be sold and match buyer? Is there really guarantee that shares could be sold and match buyer? There's never a guarantee in any market. There's no guarantee if you buy stocks on the New York Stock Exchange that you'll be able to sell them to a match buyer. There's never a guarantee. Is the interest paid daily the coupon rate, or is there a coupon rate? The interest paid daily is the coupon rate, correct. What is CoinMetro's volume per 24 hours? It fluctuates. Right now, our average is around 400K, I think. But that's from the beginning of the year. It was single thousands. So we were around like 8 to 9,000. We got up to 10, then 30, and now we've 10x'd essentially that volume. And we've already seen days with 1 to 2 million. I think the average is probably 400 right now, 400K. Franked is tax paid. Tax is not paid. Australian thing, okay. Yeah. Tax is not paid. So we're not paying tax on your behalf simply because we would have to know where everyone resides, know the tax laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So tax really does fall on the investor. All right, guys. Parsec's in the office. I got a meeting to go to. It's been an hour and 3 minutes. I'm going to have to call it quits. We got one question here. What if shares could not match buyer? What can I do if I want to in cash? These are pretty simplistic questions, I think. So here you go. If you can't find a buyer on the open exchange, you can sell your shares to anyone you want. You just need to find a buyer. That's it. We won't be the only place to sell those shares. Ignium will be another place that you can sell those shares in the billboard market. So we won't be the only place. We will be the only one with a matching engine, but there will be other places to sell the shares. All right, guys, that's it for me. If you have questions, tag me on Telegram. I can answer more questions there. And see you guys. Have a great weekend. As always, spend time with friends and family, whether you do it virtually or whether you can do it in person. Have a good time over this weekend. Don't stress out. Don't watch prices. Buy some CoinMetro bond tokens because, well, they're awesome. Make sure you let your friends and family know about the CoinMetro bond because, why wouldn't you? And by the way, if you use your affiliate link, you're going to get 5% of what they invest paid back to your account in XCM. So make sure you do that. And always, as well, make sure you pad up your XCM balance. Cheers, guys. Have a great weekend. And Thanks for everything. See you next week.